Now, Alan Quinlan is with us. Alan, before we talk about a bit of an uptick in Munster's results, if not the performance, well, I thought the performance was decent, but let's talk about England and Wales, because that's the great story from the weekend. Poor Wales. Where did it all go wrong?
Yeah, it was. I think it was one of those ones that it was a desperation type scenario for them, and I think they brought great energy and kind of, when you look at that first half and even the start of the second half, they were full of energy, aggression. I think they had that zip in their step, and they played like a team who were under a lot of pressure.
They were hammering Australia at that stage.
They were hammering them, and Australia were decimated. I think they were really kind of vulnerable going into that match with all the injuries they have had. They were missing a number of players against Ireland, but this week was, they were really decimated. Still had a good team on the field. They had a lot of good players out there, but you think Wales, in the position they were in, 21-point lead. Really surprising the way they capitulated, and not surprised with Australia. I think we saw them in the Rugby Championship. One of the New Zealand game, the tries, the way they came back in the test match, they should have won at home in Australia, but they're capable of that. They're that kind of team that, if you give them, if you switch off a little bit, they're very dangerous. Wales lost their way. They got sloppy. They got a little bit lazy. And credit to Australia. There's a mixture here of Australia really throwing the kitchen sink at it to try and, you can imagine if that scoreline went on or even stayed at that gap, how much pressure Dave Rennie would be under.
Well, I was going to say, it was
really intriguing. Both coaches under big pressure. I think Australian press, and I was reading some of it last week, seemed to give them a little bit of a break because of all the injuries, but their results haven't been good either this year. And
they're the lowest ranking. Matt Williams pointed out in the show, they're ranked 8th. It's kind of one of the lowest they've ever been on the world rankings.
Yeah, does it all really matter? And I think they probably, we'll probably get comments after this from people, from Welsh people who watch on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So criticising us and reminding us we've never gone beyond the quarter final. But the here and now was not good for Wales at the moment. And I think it's, when you have a 21-point lead and when you lose to Italy and Georgia in the same year, they're two big ones, aren't they, at home?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that if Ireland lost those type of games, the pile-on would be...
But when do you sack the manager, Quinny? Like this far from the World Cup? Before the Six Nations?
Because I'm not an expert in this, and everyone will have an opinion on it. It's concerning, but sometimes it's a little bit... It's down to personnel and players as well. I think Wales... Their regions are, financially under pressure, and I have a lot of great friends in Wales, and I love the history around Welsh rugby, and I've had so many great memories over there. It's difficult for them because the model that they operate under is a tough one, and player development, finances, all that kind of stuff is challenging for the regions, and the proof is in the pudding, particularly around Europe. The Irish provinces are very well looked after, they're very well financed, the model is safe, and there's great support there. And you just look during COVID, the RFU have come out of COVID, lost a lot of money, but they've come out of COVID and I think they're making a surplus this year. Their books are good again. It's a constant challenge for Welsh rugby. And I'm not saying money is the thing, that it's a checkbook scenario, but it's actually supporting the regions more, getting their young players playing at a high level, having a crack in Europe, which we see the Irish provinces doing every year, which is really good to your development. But then, as I said, the argument will be Ireland haven't got beyond the quarter final. But it's been a great year for Ireland. It's been a very successful year. Wales are in a tough place because
if Gatlin is available and decides that he would take the job, do you have to just say, look, we're a year out from a World Cup, we need to do better, we can't afford to lose to Italy again next year? Like, Italy might be
I think with
heading into that
there's
game.
something not right when you're struggling with player personnel, and if Wales get everyone on the field who are fit, they're a very good side.
But that was the point I made
But I
earlier
think
on.
Their depth is an issue, and
they're paper thin, but if everybody's fit,
But we're not in. If we lose a couple of players too, Ger, from an Irish point of view,
no, it's true.
We could be in big trouble. Yeah. So Scotland, Ireland, Wales will always be in that situation. France and England will always have way more depth because of the strength of their leagues than. Not necessarily the strength, but the number of teams they have 100%. Playing. So you can handpick guys all the time.
Would Gatlin make a difference?
Of course he would. I think he would, because I think he would give them a bounce anyway with his presence. The public would love it. He's done nothing but brought success to Welsh rugby. So popular there. But it's a risky one for him. Because if he goes back there, he's leaving New Zealand. He's up in sticks again. He's back with his wife in New Zealand. They're settled, but I think he loves, and he felt so loved in Wales, and obviously had great success with them. He took Wales over when they were in this kind of a similar position and brought instant success. Really, made a very strong, robust. Gatty's biggest strength is I think, the morale, the mood in the camp.
Well, the team has an identity. Everybody knows what the role is.
Yeah, and I think he's always very shrewd about bringing good technical coaches in around him.
Yeah.
Sean Edwards obviously is
not going to be available.
He was a big loss to Wales.
You have to assume that there are other people equally as talented as Sean Edwards available that Gatlin might be able to convince to come and join for a year.
Yeah, you've got a checkbook job here where you've got to go out and get good people to come in, and obviously if you get a good coaching team, it will give Wales a bounce. I'm not sure, you hear this stuff in sport that they're not playing for the coach, or they're not playing for the manager, or something's not wrong, or the camera's gone up to the box, the coaching box, and they look disjointed. I've seen that. You can read a little bit of stuff into that if there's a row, or if they're not. We've seen it on a regular basis. But when you're under pressure, Stephen Jones involved there as well. Top bloke, great fella. I think he's. So
Gatlin might keep someone like Stephen Jones for continuity.
If who knows?
On balance, what do you think is more likely? Pivac is in charge or not in charge by the time the Six Nations rolls around?
The way it's going, I think not in charge, but that may be dictated to by finances as well. And can they go out and afford to pay a huge salary to Warren Gatland again? But it's very concerning for them, and it's not good to see. And I've always said this: it's obviously we want to beat Wales and we want to beat England when we play against them.
I'm enjoying a little bit of this now, I've got to say.
But
a little bit of this.
Well, I'm not. I think, because I would have wanted Wales to win and have a good autumn. But I would have. I really want their regions to be strong. They can argue, of course, again, they can come back and say, well, Munster are not strong at the moment. But I mean, in general, in the last number of years, to be in Europe and
But Munster not being strong is a crisis. The Welsh team's not being strong at the moment is what we've become accustomed to. Like, at least there's massive debate about what's going on at Munster. It is like this needs to get fixed.
Wales are a good side when they have everyone fit and available, but there's something really not right. There's something not right there as regards the nation being behind them, the results. I think the result against Argentina gave a little bit of hope, but they were well beaten by New Zealand again. And let's be honest, it's got to be much closer than that. New Zealand scoring 55 points against them. Georgia, he's got to make changes there, and it's not the strongest Welsh team, but you
still need to be able to.
You've got to win that game.
Yeah. It's impossible now, though, because the players aren't stupid. They read papers. They know that Gatlin's name is now being mentioned, and that Pivac's days are essentially probably numbered. So, it's tough for players even to.
It is.
Reverse
that. I think Wayne Pivac is very popular, and he's very well liked by the players. But you have someone like Jamie Roberts who's saying, and he's a Welsh legend, so. Maybe it's not for me to say Wales have got to make this change.
What's Robert saying?
He's saying
back Pivac.
No,
it makes change. Okay.
So I think it's tough times for him at the moment. But it's make the change now. I think it's come to that point where they've played their last 12 games. They've won 3, lost 9.
Yeah,
it's too many losses.
It's funny how as a neutral observer, I always felt like the November internationals were a little bit of a free hit for most countries. But if you look back at the track record, Ireland hammered South Africa. They sacked the coach. They got Razzie in, and it was a transformative moment for South African rugby. It's possible for a change now.
I don't buy into this scenario of it's too close to the World Cup for anyone, even if it was in an Irish scenario, because at the end of the day, sometimes that change, you get that bounce out of it, and it's worth rolling the dice sometimes. If it's hasn't been working and not working, you've got to make change. England's scenario is similar, but Ireland go to Cardiff in the first Six Nations game, and
we'd much rather Wayne Pivac in charge than Warren Gatlin, wouldn't we? Like we would.
Exactly.
Do you know? Like
because even that psychological edge, you can imagine if Gatlin was there and he'll be throwing stuff out during the week, and he'll be testing Ireland. They'll find that bit of a surge for him if it happened, but it's a tough decision for them to make, and it's a tough place they're in at the moment.
Is it as tough a decision, or is it actually easy to stick with Eddie Jones at the moment in England? Clive Woodward is like, the knives are out, and Clive Woodward is like, this review that we're about to do is pointless because we don't know who's doing it, and then afterwards we don't really find out that much about it, and there's no jeopardy involved. It's just we recommend you do this, this, this and this. And he's saying, for reasons which have never been explained to me, I've never been invited to participate in any of these reviews. At the risk of sounding arrogant, I believe I'm the most qualified Englishman to conduct an investigation. People might read that and think I'm angling for a job. Nothing could be further from the truth. The role as RFU Director of Rugby would have interested me 10 years ago, but that ship has long since sailed. Clive rules him out of a position which he wasn't asked to do. It's just an interesting little dynamic at the moment where somebody has won the World Cup in England, and he's piling on this guy who's never won the World Cup for England but has been involved in very successful teams.
He has been for a while, and I think it's a very valid argument to say that he is the most qualified person. He got the best out of that England team, albeit it was full of characters, full of quality, but he brought that success to them, and England have been too stop-start. Again, I think the quality of players, and I looked back at their team from Saturday, and they're a better team on paper than what we're seeing from them. They look lost for ideas, they looked disjointed, their set piece is poor. They wouldn't put any sort of fear in you at that England team, the way they're playing. And I think from the quality, the type of player they have, there's something not right there. There's something not right. He's not getting the best out of them, and I think he's lost the dressing room in a sense. And you hear that from ex-players talking about, the regime he's run, the way he's chopped and changed coaches over the years. He's been absolutely ruthless and probably not very nice to some of these people. A couple of them have spoken out about it, about the environment. It can only take you so far. That fear, that fear of failure within the group, that fear that's in players, and they're being held back here. And I think he'll be very, very lucky to survive. I must say, Eddie Jones has come out with, the kind of psychological warfare over the years and made some kind of disparaging comments about Irish players and Ireland kicking the ball, Johnny Sexton's worry about when he retires, stuff like that. That wasn't... It created a lot of headlines. He's always been someone I've kind of had an admiration for, if you like.
It's box
There's
office.
something about... when you meet him, he'll have a chat, and you could be saying something about him week before and he'll say hello and he'll chat, and it is box office stuff, but
what's that like? Right. What's that like day to day though, when that's your coach and you're not quite sure what you're going to get in terms of the consistency? Sometimes he's ruthless, sometimes he's praising you, sometimes he's telling you you're no good, he's writing books, he's coaching in Japan. It's like
sending a player a packet of sausages, telling him it's a fillet steak, that he is a sausage when he opens up his package at home, and needs to work on his game. I heard that story last week.
No, what's the story?
A particular player, he didn't pick him, but he sent him a package, told him it was a fillet steak, go home, have a nice steak, released him from camp, and have a nice steak, relax, you'll be fine. The guy opened up the package, there was sausages in there, and he got a text message then saying, well, you're a sausage, you work on your game. And now I don't know how true that is, but that was on social media last week.
Tough love, that is tough love.
It has been tough love from Eddie Jones. I think Mike Brown, who played under him, got dropped by him and released and not picked. He's coming out now saying in the papers again, when it's not our back garden, if you like, But when you see ex-players, and it's the same in the Welsh scenario, who are respected, who've been there, done that, they know the culture, they've been very passionate. Mike Brown has been someone who's been very, very, he's so passionate about England. There's probably a little bit of a needle there by, his clash with Eddie Jones and Jones not picking him. So you got to read between the lines as well. But, Will Greenwood, I saw him doing a video afterwards in Twickenham. Someone who would have been very pro Eddie Jones, and I think probably has a good relationship with him. I know Eddie Jones is, they've done coaching sessions together and done events together. He thinks it's really, really, really concerning. And that result on Saturday was...
He's the moderate voices, and they're saying...
Yeah, and you've got to... Somewhere between the lines, I think he'll do well to hang on, this stage.
Once you've lost the Twickenham crowd and he has... the boos at the end, Eddie Jones is the biggest sausage in English rugby at the minute. He seems to be the problem. I know the players maybe aren't playing for him, but I mean...
On paper, Shane, better team, aren't they? It's surprising, and I think I also saw some stuff about the reaction of when they're, way behind against New Zealand and the shackles are off.
Yeah.
And I think they were brilliant.
Well,
Ben Young's coming on, made a huge difference. The energy, the tempo, there's taking risks. I think Eddie Jones has kind of strangled the team a little bit, and he's trying this power game, keep it direct, run out over teams. South Africa are the ones that are the best at doing that, and they're brilliant at doing that. When you see an English scrum at Twickenham going backwards, you're kind of going,
this doesn't happen.
It shouldn't happen. And if you go back and talk to any of the ex-England internationals or passionate English rugby fans, you kind of have your ground rules at home, and that doesn't mean that they'll always work for you. But when you see an English pack being dominated like that,
Brian Moore,
very, very concerning.
Brian Moore is saying that the remaining impediment to sacking him is finding a suitably qualified and available replacement. Gatlin must be going, what? I'm available for that. And also, Scott Robertson has literally said in the last 3 weeks, obviously I'd love the New Zealand job, but the England job would also be good. He's sitting there, right there, ready to go. They could easily pay for Borthwick if they needed to. I know they always talk about the debts that they have around the refinancing of Twickenham, but English rugby can generate money if they need to. It's not a question of money with Jones at the end of his 1 year left on his contract either.
They would find the money.
Yeah.
They'd get private money if they wanted it.
Yeah. Somebody somewhere will bail them out.
Exactly, yeah. I think Scott Robertson is the one that to try and get him to move now. Maybe, I don't know, or get somebody in now. But I think Eddie Jones, there's a review going to happen over the next 2 weeks, as you mentioned there at the start. I think it'll be very, very hard for him to survive. I really think it'll be... And the tough thing for Eddie Jones personally here is if he doesn't survive, does the American scenario, because I think that could possibly be a done deal with him going to America.
And maybe he just takes that over early, because they don't have the World Cup to go to anyway. So,
and I don't think if they've agreed something with Eddie Jones that they're going to change their mind at this stage. But you never know. But I think the results are concerning. Even the Ireland game, if you go back to the Six Nations, I know the sending off was early, but I just thought that doesn't happen with England. It shouldn't really happen. If we go to Twickenham, we should be absolutely having to play out of our skins for 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Get a bounce of a ball and,
it's the pin of our
I'm
collar.
not saying it shouldn't happen, but it's concerning, that there's something missing there as well. And look, people could argue it's down to some quality, but when you look at the English team and look at the Welsh team and the depth that the English rugby has, given these guys are playing kind of week after week, and the quality of their young players coming through, the results are not good enough.
Okay, just a quick question about the Connacht Munster game. Munster obviously win in the end, and it's comfortable. The bonus point is secured, and the result is never really in doubt. In the first half, when Ralston gets the intercept and goes over, was there any fear at that stage? This looks like it has a familiar bang to the rest of the season.
I would have never been comfortable. Maybe when it was 24-10, I think that was the time where you thought if Munster go down the field now and kind of control the game, kick a penalty, make it 27-10, that it gives you that bit of comfort. But Connacht are a side that are hard. They're a good side. They're a very dangerous side, and I think they knew what was coming with Munster. I think it was parts of it were much better. There's still a lot of mistakes. They're a better side to watch. I think they're actually trying to move it a little bit more, and that's what they've been doing since the start of the season. I think it'll still take a little bit of time. I think when the intercept goes in, I think you're thinking, does it have this feel of... but I think overall, I think with respect to Connacht, I think Munster seemed to be that bit more controlled. They made it. There's a lot of mistakes there. There's a lot of handling errors.
Antoine Frisch adds a bit of something, doesn't he? Like first
he's
UFC
a lovely
star.
player, I think, and lots of people, whether you're a Munster fan or not, can see that this guy, there's something there. France have been trying to get him back. Fabien Galtier has been putting a lot of pressure trying to get him back and play with France. They've seen the quality of this guy. We've got to see it consistently, obviously, and see it in Europe when he's under pressure. But there's a natural... there's a Gary Ringrose sway to the way he runs, isn't there? There's you seem to... Every time he went into contact, he's looking for someone. He runs a good line. He's physical. I saw him actually putting on a lot of good tackles, the timing, clean outs in the breakdown. He looks a really, really good player.
Yeah, if Jack Grealish has taught us anything, get him in the team, cap him, and then we make our mind up over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think he's committed now, and I'd be very surprised if something like that happened. I don't think it will happen, because I think he's come to Ireland and he's going to throw his lot in here, and he'll be very important, I think, for the future. And we have a lot of quality in that centre position, but someone like him, you think, can really help Munster. They still have... the scrum was a concern, the set piece at times. Maul was good. But they weren't never going to run away with the game and win it by 20 points. It was always going to be tight. I fancied him to kind of... It was a strong Munster team on paper. But, really, really important bonus point win for them.
I suppose it's all put in a little bit of perspective. Quinny, the weekend with the news of Doddie Weir's really sad passing. I know this was a battle he's fought since it became public in 2016. So much money raised, so much awareness raised for motor neuron disease as well, and an inspiring figure, and really, really sad news.
Yeah, it was horrendous, I think, and I think everyone was shocked. Obviously, he's fought an incredible battle, and I think the legacy he will leave is not just Doddie Weir, the rugby player. I think it's the fight he showed, the money that's raised for the research around motor neurons disease for the future, to try and make it to try and change that picture for people. It's an incredibly difficult situation for anyone. I think he's had an incredible team around him, Doddie. I was over there a couple of years ago, and I did a dinner before the Scotland-Ireland game with Doddie, Gary Armstrong, the former Scottish scrum half as well. And I just think that the impact he's had is just phenomenal. He was always a lovely man, but he's had a team around him, and I actually started feeling it for them. I know the people behind that team who've been with him from the start. The fundraising campaigns, the events they've had, and that's been really heartening for Doddie Weir as well, But I think, for somebody to take on the illness like he did, be out there continuously fighting for fundraising for research around motor neurons disease, and you saw him before the New Zealand game a couple of weeks ago to go out onto the field, and he was very much loved, Doddie Weir, by everyone. Yeah. He was an unbelievably popular figure ever before he was diagnosed with motor neurons disease, and incredibly sad. And I think everyone felt an air of sadness on Saturday evening when that came out. Just the impact that this man has had, and Rob Burrows is going through that in England as well. The former Leeds rugby league player. It's heartbreaking to see this horrific stuff happening. But then you see the inspiration of Kevin Seinfeld and what he's done, and all the races and the fundraising, and I think what Doddie Weir has done in the last number of years has been just inspirational, and
that will be his legacy,
very sad.
And that work will continue. Alan, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.